Have you ever wondered if we live in a simulation and if the whole world is a stage? Well, in this video, got an exciting one for you today. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth. It's Tuesday, July 26th. Going to put on my tinfoil hat in this episode and going to be talking about Tilray, Molson Coors, Redecan versus HEXO. We know Tilray dropped the Anheuser-Busch deal. I'm going to be talking about whether or not all of this was planned and what all this means, right? Have you ever wondered why HEXO had 3 CEOs and why we didn't really hear from them very much? What was the point of Scott Cooper being in there? Before we get to it, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, you'll be notified on any future videos. I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but I just made a couple of posts online and I wanted to come on and dedicate a video to this because it is super important and I want to make sure this gets out to as many people as possible. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me, disagree with me. I've got this timeline pretty much thought out. I thought about it with Pow Group members as well. This isn't the first time we talked about it, but I actually went through and laid out the timeline and it has never made more sense than it has now. Have you ever wondered why, HEXO didn't do an earnings call? How come HEXO never does any, they never do any interviews, but yet they have the most retail attention, right? And investor attention. And if you look at the poll that I just did, majority of people that own HEXO are from the United States and they haven't even tried HEXO's products yet, which is pretty insane. So I'm going to go over I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat and I'm going to go over my theory with regards to Tilray and Molson Coors and then HEXO and Redecan and everything that has to do with that. So again, we'll go through this. I'll point out the timeline and I'll give facts and resources, right? Whenever I speculate, this is just me speculating. I don't know for sure, but when I speculate, I give reasons and logic and timelines and articles, right? To what could potentially be the case, right? This, again, I don't know for sure. It's just me speculating. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me. If you can add to the timeline, as a community, let's try to uncover this because we know that HEXO is number one and it's almost as if they don't care. They don't need to do interviews. They don't need to do, they won't even let Pow Group do an interview. They won't interview on, any public media, mainstream media. They didn't even do an earnings call. So why is it? Do they just think that HEXO is going to be big no matter what, right? They don't really care because they know it's going to be a monster. Well, let's dive into this. Mentioned this in my video today, earlier in the Charlie Bowman video. If you haven't seen that, also check that out. He breaks his silence, the new CEO of HEXO. But I'm quite sure it was Molson Coors, Tilray, and Redecan's plan to get SSL ousted and then appoint Scott Cooper in as the CEO to facilitate the Tilray deal. And as we know, Scott Cooper actually came from Molson Coors. He was an executive that worked for Molson Coors for about 12 years. Then he went on to Trust Beverages as the CEO there, the joint venture between HEXO and Molson Coors. And then he got hired as the CEO after SSL. SSL, Sebastian St. Louis, was fired in October of 2021. Tilray dropped the deal with Anheuser-Busch, which is the maker of Budweiser. And I'm speculating it was because they were going after HEXO. And they even said they'd been chasing HEXO for months back in November when they tried to buy them for $3 a share. They ended the deal with Budweiser in January. So if you take a look here, HEXO CEO ousted. This came in October. And then look at this. Anheuser-Busch, InBev ends Tilray MJ Venture. And this was in January. Going back to our timeline here, they knew that they would get HEXO and then they would partner on beverages, which we found that out when we just signed the deal, right? When HEXO and Tilray partnered. And something else I'm thinking of as well is the MedMen deal and the convertible notes. It mentions in there the SPV, special purpose vehicle. And Sebastian St. Louis was telling us about that as well. And now they're partnering with Tilray and Tilray's going into an SPV with MedMen. Are we living in a freaking simulation? Because you have to wonder if this is all planned and if the whole world's a stage. I know for sure, a matter of fact, 110% the market is rigged and manipulation is rampant everywhere in every sector. We know JP Morgan was fined almost $1 billion for spoofing and manipulating the gold and silver markets. So what makes us think that this wouldn't happen in MJ, right? It'd be quite naive to think anything else, right? So they knew that they would get HEXO and then partner on beverages, their intellectual property, IP, patents, technology, and they didn't need Budweiser. This also explains why Molson Coors has been so quiet. I think Tilray, Molson, Redecan were all colluding. Tilray and HEXO deal announced in March, a couple months after ending the Budweiser deal. And then I brought this up here, HEXO and Tilray Brands strategic alliance to make 2 MJ leaders. This was in March, just a couple months after the Anheuser-Busch deal fell through. Maybe they didn't want to. Maybe they were asking too much. Maybe they felt like it was Budweiser wasn't going to be a great partner, right? And then moving on. Then next month they named Charlie as the CEO in April, and he's from Colorado, I believe, but he's American. And Scott Cooper wasn't even there a year. So was it just their plan? Was it Molson Coors' plan to get Scott Cooper in there just to facilitate the Tilray deal? It's possible, right? And all the timeline lines up. And I just thought of that MedMen SPV, and we know that SSL said that Readies and gel caps were going to be coming to California through an SPV. And who do we know that's headquartered in California? That would be MedMen, and has operations in California, right? And they're into retail, and SSL even mentioned they would be doing white labeling for MSOs. And he even said that they would increase foot traffic for retailers. And just so happens, MedMen's one of the biggest retailers in the U.S. So again, who disagrees, who agrees with me? Again, we can disagree and still be friends, right? I will never get mad at somebody for having a different opinion than me. Obviously, you want to be respectful and whatnot, and not be unreasonable. That would be a completely different story. But if someone just doesn't agree with me, I have no problem with that. But if you don't agree with me, let me know why. If you do agree with me, let me know why as well. You can see here whenever I think a certain way, I break it out. I give all my points and facts and articles and timelines, right? I don't just say, I think they colluded and they're all against HEXO and this was all their plan at the end, right? Look at how much thought I put into this. So if you do decide to respond and give me your thoughts and opinions, please add a why at the end and actually go through some thorough thought process and let me know why, right? I put a lot of thought and effort into this. I would appreciate it if you could do the same on any of your comments, because like I said, it doesn't do anybody any good to just say this is going to happen, the end, right? Or this isn't going to happen, the end, right? HEXO's going bankrupt, the end. Oh, how come they're going bankrupt? Or HEXO's going to $100, or Tilray's going to $100 a share, the end. No, how about give us a reason why you think it's going to go to $100, right? So again, let me know in the comments below. The timeline is way too perfect. It can't be a coincidence, in my opinion. Like I said, this just all makes perfect sense. I can't think of anything else that would make any more sense than this. Again, let me know your thoughts and opinions. We'll continue the conversation in the comments below. But you just can't help but wonder if the whole world's a stage and we're living in a simulation. If you could smash the like, help support me in the channel on your way out, I would appreciate it. If you find that I earned it today, and if you find anybody that might find value in this video, make sure to share it with them and subscribe. Tick the bell. You'll be notified on any future updates. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth. It's Rod with Power Group, and have a great night. See you on the next video.